Checklist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Welcome back to the Tim and Steve Show. I am Tim Beard.
I'm Steve Morris.
How's it going, Steve?
Doing well. How about you, Tim?
Not bad. Feel probably 85% now. Last show I felt probably like 50. I feel like we pulled it together.
Yeah, that was a rough one. I don't know how we even had anybody watch, but I bet they didn't make it to the end. Maybe.
I don't know. Yeah, it was tough because I was just, man, when you're under, like, when you just don't feel good and you just don't have energy, like, that's the thing, is that not having the energy to talk or anything.
Yeah, I feel like I had mono on top of
Yeah,
this.
I was like, I'm still, like, I still have this stuff in my chest and I keep coughing, and it's good that it comes out, though. It's just nasty stuff when it comes out, but it's getting better. Like, I actually feel like I'm getting better now, so it's a bright side. I mean, it's been, today's what, Tuesday? It's been a solid 2 weeks now.
Yeah, you started feeling bad a couple days before me.
Yeah, and Andrea and the baby are a couple days before me, and she's mostly better. The baby still has a cough. Well, I say baby, Adeline is 3 now, but she has a cough here and there, but her like energy's back, and she's back to normal. But so we had so I just got back from Dartmouth. Andrea had an ultrasound, and I haven't been to one yet, so I was like, all right, I'll go to the ultrasound, and it's really cool to see it. It's like, it's pretty amazing. And I think about like abortion and people that decide to have an abortion, and like, all right, it's your choice and whatever, but maybe that should be one of the things that, like, okay, yeah, all right, you want to have an abortion, it's fine, but you need to come in. You need to see the ultrasound. You need to see your baby. You need to hear the heartbeat. You need to, see all this, and then you can make the decision. And I think a lot more women would be like, oh, wow, like, maybe this isn't the option, and maybe I'll just go full term and give it up for adoption, because there's so many people out there that want to have babies and can't, and I don't know. So it was cool to see it. I mean, I've seen it before, obviously, with my other kids, but I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, like, more sentimental about it, but yeah, it's pretty cool. But I wanted to, me, I constantly want to say stuff, right? But like, oh, you're having a girl. I'm like, oh, wait, how do you know? Like, how do you know that we're having a girl? Oh, because there's no penis there. Oh, but what about,
Because you had a sane, whatever, radiologist or
right
ultrasound technician.
It's like, this drives me nuts, man. Like,
sorry for drinking so much today, but it's just ghee from coughing.
It was hell in there because, so first of all, ever since COVID, if you cough around someone, they think you have the plague, and they look at you funny, and they're, why are you here? And add a mask onto it, just walking in from the parking lot, which is a pretty good stretch, get to the building, put a mask on, and walk quite a bit more. So the time I get to the waiting room, the ultrasound room there, or waiting room, like, I'm almost like hyperventilating because I'm like trying to slow my breathing down so I don't start coughing. And now I have a mask on too, and stupid shit. Like, you still have to wear a mask. Like,
so ridiculous.
So stupid. So stupid. And then I'm like sitting there and I'm like looking at this lady out there that's like eating. So if you're eating, you don't need to wear your mask.
Well, you're protected.
I mean, everyone's walking right by you, but you can take it off. This woman was like eating, and like she take a couple bites, and she put a mask back on, and and most people don't do that, but I'm like, what logic in your freaking head? Oh, I'm being courteous to other people. What freaking world do you live in? Like,
dude, we live in a clown world, Tim.
It's excuse me, it's crazy. Like, I don't even know. Like, and it's tough because, man, sometimes I leave doing the show and I'm just like, it's tough because it's depressing because we always find these things that are negative going on and trying to tell people about them because a lot of people don't pay attention. They're just in their own little world, and which is obviously what's gotten us into the position we're in now because no one pays attention and they slowly take all your rights away. And it's pretty much where we are right now. But to say, you know, oh, you have to wear a mask to go into the doctor. Now, I see if you're going to go up to the ICU and see Aunt Betty, who's very sick. Okay, that's different because her circumstances are she's very immune compromised. She's in the ICU. I mean, she might not make it. And you could bring in something that could kill her. So you need to gown up, whatever. I understand that. I respect that 100%. Or you're going to go in and to a surgery. They all mask up, right? Well, okay, and they gown up and they do all that. That's fine. There's protocols and all that. But for me and you to have to walk down the hallways of the Dartmouth, which is like a big mall in a way, oh, you got to wear a mask. As soon as you get outside, you're fine. As soon as you sit at that table and eat, drink, you're fine. But that's it. I'm like, such a bunch of control.
It's all about control, Tim.
And we were so stupid to fall for it and still falling for it. Like, people would be like, oh, yeah, but I want to go out to eat. So I just got to wear a mask to go out to eat. No, see, this is what you don't get. No, you don't. You tell them the F off, you're not wearing a mask. The business says F off state, I'm not wearing a mask. Go ahead, take me to court, try to take my license, do whatever. They have no right to do so. You're just surrendering everything because, well, I don't want to cause a fuss.
Yeah, because they've made people weak, Timothy.
So weak.
I talk about it all the time with holding people to account. People are afraid to say, you messed up. You violated the law, and now there needs to be punishment for it. Instead, everybody, well, you know, let's make an excuse for everybody and everything. And then you have chaos and lawlessness, and then you have people afraid to speak up. You got to be able to speak up and speak your mind.
Yeah, and I think today kids are worse if they don't speak up. And I think that's so much where like this bullying stuff comes in, because you don't have what it takes inside to stand up for yourself and say, hey, don't talk to me that way, don't treat me that way. Because a lot of people, if you just did that, would be like, all right, you know, don't mess with them. Because they go after easy targets. Kids are horrible. Like, I've watched that Chris Rock special. We talked about it yesterday. And I actually rewatched like the last half hour because I fell asleep when I first watched it. And
his preaching,
his preachy kind of thing, yeah.
He had like a cadence of a.
He did, and I didn't care for all the jokes.
Nikki and I almost stopped it, but we wanted to see what he said about Will Smith.
Yeah.
Like, we were both bored with it.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, you're not funny that much anymore. But that was funny at the end.
It was very good at the end, yeah. The point is you just stand up for yourself, and if you feel a certain way, you need to say something. Yeah. But we've conditioned everyone now, oh, you got to protect Johnny's feelings. You're going to hurt Johnny's feelings. But the whole time...
And Johnny could be a child or an adult.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But if you don't speak up, then you become the person that
you keep suffering for...
Yes. Where if you just stood up and said, hey, I don't like what you're doing. Oh, okay. Because a lot of times people just don't know. Well, I didn't realize you were bothered by this.
Well, that's how we used to tell people to deal with things, like when I first was in the military.
Right.
So if you had an issue, whether it was inappropriate jokes or whatever, you didn't immediately go tell on someone. What you said was, hey, Tim, I don't appreciate those jokes. Please don't use them around me. And then you should be like, okay, sorry.
Right.
And then it should die right there.
Right. And then if it continues, then you take it to the next level.
Then you take it to the next level.
But not dimed out on the first,
Yeah, exactly. Like, they said something that hurt my feelings. Well, did you say anything to them about it?
Right.
I'm saying to you, but you need to go tell them.
Right.
So that they understand the impact it has on you.
Right. But they're scared to go do that.
Right.
Like, and I think probably what's happened to me the last 5 years, and this has gotten so much better for me, is because Andrew is very outspoken, and like I'll see things happen within our family or whatever that I was like, holy cow, like she says it, and if I said it, I feel like it'd be different, but they know, like, this is how Andrew, this is how she speaks. I would rather have that all the time. Like, I've changed so much. Like, I would rather have someone go to your face and say what they think about you than run their mouth behind your back, and half the time the story's not true. Like, or, oh, okay, 10% of what's being said is true, but this is what really happened, because, come on. That's how all these stories are. There's my side, your side, and there's a truth, which is usually something in the middle, you know?
Right.
So it's just like, stand up for yourself, man. If you feel something you don't like, say something. Say something. Okay, I really don't like how, that's going, or I don't like that. What's so freaking hard about that?
Well, I think part of it is, so I say, hey, Tim, I don't like this, right? And so then how are you going to respond? Are you going to be like, well, F Steve, I don't want to be around him. He can't put up with my jokes or sarcasm, whatever, whatever it might be. And so then, you think about all those different things internally, I guess. You process them, and then you got to do a risk reward. What's the risk of me saying something? Am I going to get punched in the face? Is this someone who tends to be violent? Is this someone who it's going to make it worse because I've seen someone else say something to them, and all they do is like double down? So, I mean, there are instances where it's not as easy as just saying something. But you're right. The first step on anything is to say, hey, I don't like it when you're doing this. When you talk to me this way or when you do these things, it bothers me.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be able to have a good relationship. And so you got to be able, the person who has the issues got to be able to, is this worth losing my friendship or work relationship with? And sometimes it might be, so there's other things that go into it. So it's not an easy thing, but the best thing is always to say, when you don't like something, I don't like something.
Yeah. You have to stand up for yourself. If not, your whole life you'll be taken advantage of. And, then that resentment builds up inside. And, I mean, honestly, that's probably why you get so many violent outbursts of shootings and businesses and stuff, because that person just never said nothing, and then just built up the horrible situation.
Or people minimize their feelings.
Right.
Or, whatever you want to call it. If it's not feelings, their logic, whatever.
Right.
So they minimize it because maybe they didn't explain themselves well. And so then they're like, well, I'm not ever going to say anything again. And it just builds up.
Yeah.
And they don't have an outlet. When the outlet should be to have an open conversation, not to be afraid to say whatever it is.
Right. You don't want to be taken advantage of your whole life. And so you have to stand up for yourself. It's like, well, when are you going to do it? Because it's never going to get easier. The older you get, it's not necessarily going to get easier to do it. But at some point, you have to say, all right, here's the line, I'm done. And it's give and take, right? Sometimes you're going to lose an argument. Maybe I'm wrong about something. But standing up for yourself and what's right is the biggest issue I think I see that it's just not happening.
It's hard to do.
It takes courage.
It takes courage because a lot of people will shun you. It's like they have leveling mechanisms, right? So if you're working hard and you're doing great at work, and then the 60% that doesn't really work hard are going to push to get you to slow down so that you don't stand out amongst the herd. So I mean, there's all kinds of things that go on, but at the end of the day, the best thing to say is like, hey, I don't like this. I don't like you. I don't like your behavior. I don't like how apparently every time we have a conversation, you're the only one that's always remembers everything properly, and I misremember everything.
Right. No, it's crazy. It's like I don't know, like with the kids, I think probably some of that was, very much dampened with COVID. That totally screwed these kids up.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you ask any of the, the teachers or the superintendent, or excuse me, the principals and stuff like that, we came back and things were kind of normal. Like, these kids had just totally forgot how to react, and, it's pretty crazy. And so there's some of that of a hiccup to get over. And
well, you got to remember, too, the younger kids, they mimic behaviors and responses. And so
right.
A lot of what they do is they mimic with their nonverbal cues. And when your face is covered up,
right.
You're hindering their ability to learn how to communicate with other humans. We have to be able to communicate with each other. And so if as a young child you're not able to see my lines on my face, because communication, you can argue, is up to 90% nonverbal.
Yeah.
And we took away the whole lower half of the face for 2 years for a lot of young kids, and even, the teenagers, and even with adults.
Yeah.
You can't read the situation fully if someone's face is covered.
Right.
Like, I read people. I spend a lot of time in a job where I understand people better than they probably think that I do. Like, I can have a conversation with someone and pretty much figure out a lot about them because that was my job.
Right.
I had to lead and motivate people to do things that most men and women don't want to do on a day in and day out basis. And so for me, when I talk to somebody, if I can't see their face, it's kind of useless because, number one, I can't hear that well. My hearing is not that great. And so now your voice is muffled, and I can't read your face. So you could be lying, you could be duplicitous, you could be all kinds of things behind that mask. And I have no desire to talk to you if I don't think you're a trustworthy person and you're hiding behind a mask. Or you're somebody new, you're going to get some niceties and I'm walking away because I don't know if I'm talking to someone who's being honest or not. Because you can tell a lot by someone's face whether they're being honest or not.
Yeah, very much.
And we took that ability away from kids for 2 years in the school system. And it's sad that the policies that were enacted nationwide all the way down to our local level hindered our kids.
And then you find out all the stuff that we had said from day one, but everyone said was lies. No, it's true.
Yeah, I mean, I read from published articles. Nothing I said was Stevens, lunatic rants that he came up with in his basement. This was all thorough research. And I have, the background that should prove that I have the ability to research. So when I research something, if you're not somebody who does a lot of research, you should be like, oh, well, what did you find, Steve? How can I look that up? Where can I find this kind of information? Not dismiss me. You don't know me. But to dismiss, like, this is what bothers me with society. So let's say you and I are having an argument. The quickest way to get me to just walk away from you is to attack me in any form or fashion and not talk about whatever the conversation is. Because that's the quickest way of showing that you're not mature enough to handle this. You're not mature enough to look at the facts. You just want to react, and I don't have time for that in my life. Like, I want to learn things. I don't think I know everything. I think I know how to research. I think I can understand a medical paper whenever I read the summary. I don't need to understand what the chemical breakdown of a particle is, or an element. What I need to understand is, what are they saying and how does it relate, and does it correlate with something else? Is it actually a cause and effect relationship? And if you have reading comprehension skills, you should be able to do that. You don't have to be a doctor to go on to the NIH and read all the paperwork that they have out there. It's actually very easy to understand. Now, the minutia at the back end, yes, you need to be a professional to understand that. But They put summaries up there, and then you can read through, and yeah, you might have to look up a word or two, but you got to be able to put the work in.
Right.
So, if you want to sit there and say, you're one of those guys, or you want to sit there and start attacking, like if I say something positive about Trump, and then you want to sit there and start telling me about what a piece of garbage he is, well, I'm not going to have a conversation with you now. I'm wasting my time because you don't want to talk about anything other than what the media has portrayed, which I'll tell you, yeah, he sends out some jackass tweets, and he said some things sometimes that you're like, you're the president. But also, in hindsight, look at all the things that have proven to be hoaxes, that just with last night with Tucker releasing all that stuff, and it's not as violent as they claimed it was.
Yeah, and then,
I'm not saying there wasn't any violence. What I'm saying is it wasn't.
Oh, then Schumer went on the floor today of the Senate and just bashed him to hell, and it was the most unbelievable hour of TV he's ever seen in his life, and blah, 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 blah.
So he thinks that Tucker made up that?
Basically, Tucker took the video and twisted it to show a different narrative that didn't fit their, BS, and it's like it's in front of your
how can you,
eyes, man.
If the shaman's being escorted around and cops are trying to open the door for him, what's off about that, other than the fact that the cops should have been like, hey, man, you need to get out of here. You can't go in there.
Because he gets a platform to spout from with no rebuttal. No one's saying you have to back up what you just said. That's all it is. It's sound bites, right? Now, if he was in a courtroom setting, on the stand, said that, and then was ripped apart by lawyers based off this, and this, he'd have to prove his case and say, well, it's incorrect because of that. They wouldn't, because he's got nothing. He's just trying to rile up other people that are like, oh, look what's happening. Like, no, you get caught. You're a bunch of liars. What you said happened didn't happen. Pelosi set the whole thing up, and you're still defending the friggin' circus.
That's what it appears to me. She had a film crew with her to document it. She knew what was going to go on.
Yeah. Our federal government is a circus. Absolute circus.
Well, they don't represent the people. They represent the lobbyist.
Yeah.
Does it really matter? We can call up and say whatever we want, but unless we got a check at the end of that conversation. Thank you for calling. I appreciate your input.
Yep.
Delete.
Yep. True story.
I mean, that goes all the way down to local governance, too.
Yeah. So we talked about select board meeting last night.
I mean, we can. That was they.
I don't care either way, but so selectmen meeting last night. The selectmen. Well, here's the thing that gets me, because this was actually done prior to this meeting, but one of the articles on there was to terminate the lease for the bus barn with the school, so they can occupy those 2 bays that are down there for their stuff they've got. So I think this started what? It was October maybe?
When we did our budget review.
It was November's meeting when we publicly had voted to send a letter basically to the town saying, hey, we're going to hold on to basically take the $6,000 we're paying, we're going to put it into like escrow in a way.
To put repairs.
To do repairs, because currently what we have down there for our employees is unacceptable, and I'm sure is illegal. You know, the mechanic can't be working on the bus on a dirt floor. Like, he cannot jack the bus. It's like, I'm telling you, there's no way. It's going to be illegal. So they had a little room they made themselves to like get in where it was warm, because there's no heat in there, which the fire chief was not happy. But he's like, hey, this is like, you shouldn't be here. It's dangerous, whatever. So those obviously concerns. The concerns, you know, apparently the door to the bathroom was locked for like, you know, because they have to go out of those bays to an area to use the bathroom, whatever. So, I mean, this was brought to our attention like probably October by the head of the bus garage. Like, hey, come like look at this. And then Don, obviously, because Jana was new, you know, hey, this isn't acceptable. So, obviously, time going on, we're right in the middle of budget season, which is our priority, because we have a small amount of time by law to finish your budget, you know, figure everything out. The letter was never sent, anyways. So we never sent a letter saying we weren't going to pay. We never sent a letter saying that we were going to, you know, we wanted to move out or whatever. So if you look at everything that happened, like stepping back, not even from board perspective, just literally look back. If you watch those meetings, you watch their meetings, you see the whole thing. You clearly can see what happens, because it accelerated in the last like 2 meetings. They saw an opportunity for the town to take over those 2 bays for their stuff. They knew we weren't happy about the conditions down there. They weren't going to put any money into it to make it better. And they said, hey, here's an opportunity to get rid of them. We get to keep all this. And now, instead of, you know, with the rec center, taking down the old rec and building the ambulance garage and everything there like they're going to do, well, now they're just going to take one of those bays and use it for that, I guess, apparently, from what, you know, I can gather other conversation in there. What gets me is when you make decisions as a school board member or as a selectman member, you make decisions representing the whole town, all 6,500 people, or, you know, whatever. So if something comes to our board and is like, hey, you should do this, and I know it's going to screw the town in some way, like hey, this is going to hurt the town overall, you're going to have a hard time like winning that battle with me that, oh yeah, no, we should do this. This will be good for the school. This will be horrible for Newport overall, but it's good for the school. I'm going to vote. I represent the people of Newport. So most likely I'm going to be like, no, I don't care. This is going to hurt our town, and that's what's important, because that's what I represent. Whether it's select board or school board, You represent the people of the town, and that's not happening. You clearly showed last night, like they made the decision in non-public because we got the eviction notice, and it wasn't done in the last meeting because I watched the whole meeting, so it was done in non-public. And then Jeff Kessler, says that we were having non-publics about this, and we should have basically did it in front of everybody or whatever, like they were doing. Which, like, really, because you just terminated a lease last meeting in non-public, why didn't you do it in front of everybody? And then basically it was just kind of a formality.
Yeah, because they kept talking about, was it Barry? Their intonations also, the way that their voices were, they were emotional. At least 4 out of the 5, I would say, because I was watching it, so that's my own personal opinion. But I picked up emotion on it, and it was obvious that they had serious discussions about this, because one of them said, well, we already talked about this and we're going to do this and now we're going to go against it. So they had already had some deeper conversations than what I even saw.
Yeah, they made
watching
a decision.
The last meeting. You know what I mean? Like you said,
They
it must have been a non-public, or I missed.
No, it was a non-public.
Missed something.
It had to have been. So they made a decision and then put it on the agenda to then make this, it was just completely backwards. But the reason it was done that way is because now they're like, oh, well, we can utilize this space. But if you want to back up in history, we used to have 4 bays down there, and the town has slowly pushed us out over the years, and took away the.
But they take the high ground, Tim. So I don't think they pushed us out. They probably, talked to us, worked it out, kept our rent.
That's the thing too.
Which our rent should be paying for the electricity. I guess maybe we're using more.
Yeah,
like the whole thing just didn't make any sense to me.
Well, as soon as we said something about complaining about the conditions, and I guess it was never formally sent to them that we were complaining about the conditions, but then Jeff Kessler decided to bring up at their meeting to raise the rent from $6,000 to $10,000 something, which, come on, man, timing, think about it. Oh, I'm sure it's been on your mind for years probably, but now all of a sudden.
Yeah, he did the backtrack and he figured it out, and so now, okay.
What gets me is.
All right, somebody, Mr. High Road.
Exactly. What gets me is you're taking the tax money either way, whether it's out of my left pocket or my right pocket. It's my tax money, it's your tax money. Every one of those board members' tax money because they live in town.
Except for.
Well, so I don't get it. And Hunter said this before, like, oh, I don't want to hear that, it's the same money. It is the same money.
It is, yeah. That's a bureaucrat's answer that has no loyalty to the town that he works at.
So, the struggles at the school. Money's always an issue with the school. Always is. And always has been. And until the state figures that part out, it's always going to be. But you conveniently come in at, a couple pennies under every year, money's going down, whatever, and then you try to screw us on the SRO. You try to get 150%, so time and a half for that officer to be there. So all that's taking it from my left pocket and putting it in my right pocket. And then at the end of the year, you have the convenience of you can carry your budget over. So if you have $1 million left over, you don't have to give it back to the taxpayers. You can just use it for whatever you want. You can carry it over until the next fiscal year. School can't do that. It has to deplete the whole thing, or it goes back to the town taxpayers. So, town already has extra money they're playing with there all the time, anyways, and it's just like, oh, so if I can screw the school, that's how it feels. There's no teamwork. We're not working as a team.
I'll tell you this much: last night, from my perspective, Jenna and Donna both tried to be team players and acknowledged, hey, we went about it the wrong way, we should have called whatever. And so for any of those selectmen to say anything other than it was out of, like, what they did was because they don't care about the bus barn or the school. But there was no other reason, because Jenna Darling stood up as the chairman of the board and said, hey, look, I take responsibility. Donna said she takes responsibility. They weren't interested in that. They wanted those 2 bays, so they got them. Like, that's the end of the discussion. They can act like they took a high road, and they can act all indignant, all that they want, when Mr. Kessler could have picked up the phone at any point in time and called Jenna and said, "Hey, Jenna, it seems like there's some miscommunication." So as much as he last night tried to make it sound like we did something wrong, and I'm not going to address everything now because I'm going to do it to their face.
Yeah.
Because they need to be told to their face some of this stuff that apparently they think that we don't see or hear. Like, they need to check themselves before they go and talk indignantly towards us about having non-public discussions, because there's reasons to have non-public discussions, and it has nothing to do with anything other than what I'm going to tell them to their face whenever I have the opportunity to. Because they need to hear it, because they act like they're all above board and above reproach, and they're in charge of everything, and they're on top of this, that, and the other. Okay. Not from my perspective, and I'm talking as a citizen here, not as a board member. I'm talking about me watching their board meetings and how they conduct themselves and how the town operates. So if they think that the town operates above board and there's no issues going on at the town that would have any inkling of why we would have a meeting in private to discuss this situation, then they really need to do some soul searching, because they are not paying attention to their own meetings and what's going on at the town. So they should check that out, and then they should have, from my perspective, even I think it's Kurt Minich stood up and said, "Hey, they're here trying to offer a peace offering. Why don't we figure this thing out?" But like you said, their mind was made up. They've been making a play for those bays for years now. So this isn't because we had a vote to withhold our money to make improvements so that our employees have adequate work conditions. Right, so that's where they all leave out. They act like this is the greatest thing, and
no, it was illegal from the get-go. You have to have a warm place for your employees to go. You have to have a bathroom. You have to have an area where you'd have the OSHA laws and all the stuff that you have to post by law, like a time clock area. You have to have all that stuff. So now it's okay. You're just going to put your buses outside. And that was some of the argument. Well, not all buses are inside. A lot of buses are outside. Okay, I see that, but any of those places where the buses are outside are going to have some sort of building where your staff would go in, can warm up as the buses are
they're going to go sit in their car for an hour while their bus warms up?
You can't. It's not legal. You can't do that. You have to have a bathroom. You have to have things. Ask the state. They're going to tell you. You legally have to have these things. So, that was the issue. And now we supposedly get to have space outside still, not kicking out the property, which...
It's I wonder how often, because we try to get out and go and visit and talk to the different schools and everything, and it's just interesting some of the things that were said last night that show a lack of understanding of the entire situation.
No, I'd like to so I'm actually being very calm about the whole bus thing. Because that wasn't last night. I wish I went, because there's so many things I would have said that weren't said that should have been said last night.
Yeah, I would have went tit for tat with them, whereas, like I've said it, now I'll say it again, Jenna and the superintendent, and my point of view, from what I know, took the high road, and she acknowledged, all right, I should have called you, but my question is why didn't y'all call her? You're going to sit there and cast judgment and everything else, and because all you got to do is listen to the sound of their voices, by the way. Listen to their voices. That was an emotional, that wasn't like a, hey, you know what, we need it, sorry, y'all sent this and it's the perfect timing. There was nothing matter of fact about what they said. What they were condemning us for having the audacity to want to improve it, and then meeting behind closed doors, and then they went and met behind closed doors. So it's all a moot point. So all of the grandstanding that took place to me was a moot point as a citizen watching that.
Yeah. So I want to close out the talk on the bus part from last night.
But I will, to their face, let them know why.
Oh, we're not done talking about this.
No. But I'm just saying,
I just want to...
I will tell them why we had a meeting in private, because they're so myopic they can't understand why we would do that with the conditions that have been set forth in this town.
Yeah, well, that's what we can get into now. So I just want to... The bus thing's done.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay? That's how I look at it at this point. We'll move on. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Because that's just... It is what it is. But what I want to go over is...
I'm just talking about the indignation in Kessler's voice when he was talking to,
Right.
I guess, Jenna and the superintendent and Mr.
Right.
Spalding, because he was there, Bert.
So, now this is what I want to talk about. And we've maybe talked a little bit about it, but then we really haven't talked a ton about it on the show. And now I feel compelled to talk about it. So, for more than a year, the town of Newport posted a road because the bridge supposedly was not safe to go over. That road is Coon Brook Road. That road is where Stevens Construction has their pit. And by posting that road, forced them and anyone else to drive more than an hour around to avoid this bridge, which cost Stevens probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if you watch, and this is watch the meetings, Josh and his wife went to meetings, talked openly, have factual information. Bert Spalding also, same thing, all open, have all the information, okay? So I'm speaking of this as what I saw in public, and I know that can be backed up with facts that, Bert has or whatever. So Hunter nor the Public Works Director have any lawful means of posting a road. They have no authority whatsoever. Zero. The only people that have the authority to post a road, according to RSA, is the Select Board.
It actually says that on the signs.
Yeah.
Per select board. It doesn't say
RSA
per
number.
the town manager or
No.
the DPW director or whatever his title is.
Correct. So we'll say the town, not saying the select men, the town, between the DPW and the town manager, were totally caught in a lie, say that they had the bridge looked at. The state of New Hampshire is the one that typically does the assessment of bridges, but apparently we decided to hire someone and pay money, taxpayer money, to look at a bridge, which makes no sense because Hunter's pretty frugal, and if he can get it done for free, he'll do it for free. So supposedly we had two different. One was the Daniels Construction, who got the bridge job over on Sand Hill. We can get into that too, but so supposedly I looked at the bridge. Okay, well, come to find out, there's no paperwork to back up any of the story. And if you watch the meeting, it flip-flopped like crazy. I'm like, I notice things. Like, when people talk and if you listen and if you pay attention, when the story changes multiple times in the same meeting, they're lying. Like, it's not very complicated to see it. And you can see it clear as day. So in the end, that bridge was a 555, which is the highest rating you can get for a used bridge. The only ratings higher than that are brand new bridges they just put in there, okay? So they then, a meeting later or whatever, mysteriously take the sign down. But that was it. There was
Nobody was held to account, like we were talking about
Nope.
earlier.
No
one's
accountability.
held to account. Everybody's allowed to misremember everything, and that's just a hand wave.
Yeah, so it was like,
Oops. Oopsie, we just cost you a lot of money, Stevens, who,
Just
one of
Newport-
many things they've done.
Newport business, Newport graduate,
Gives to our community.
and
It's what makes Newport great is Josh Stevens and his family and his business. I appreciate them.
yeah, them and
Yeah, many others,
businesses.
but I'm
Yes.
just saying with this, they're part of that
Right.
crew
So-
that makes it awesome to live here.
So that was just one thing that happened. Then let's go to the Sand Hill Bridge, okay? So Stevens was the lowest bidder on that job. Stevens didn't get the job. By law, you have to take the lowest bidder. Now, it has to be a qualified person. If me and you send a bid in and we've never worked on bridges and stuff, then they're going to reject your bid because, well,
Yeah, you
you're
don't
not
have-
qualified to do the
Right.
job. Yeah, I know Steve and Tim could do the job for $500,000. Of course they could, because they have no clue what they're doing. They're going to take the money and they're going to run, right?
Right.
So, in the process of this whole thing, Daniels Construction gets a job. Okay, they're second highest bid, whatever. But Stevens was the lowest bid. A letter was sent to the state of New Hampshire stating, and this was from Todd Cartier, the head of the DPW, stating that they did a bridge in Henniker, and there was all these issues. They weren't happy with it and whatever. So we should not take his bid because he basically messed up a different bridge. So Stevens has never done a bridge in Henniker, ever.
Oh, was it just made up?
I don't know how you could look at it otherwise. So an employee of the town fraudulently wrote a letter, lying, stating that this is what happened, and that letter would appear to be the determining factor of why they didn't get the job, because if not, they illegally took a bid that was higher and not the lowest bid. And he still has his job. Town manager still has his job. What's going on here? What is going on here where you can clearly look at the town manager has a hair across his ass with Stevens, and it all goes back to the sidewalks, and it all comes back to the town it's to the town's engineer
who messed up
that
the
messed
concrete?
the spec up on the concrete, and Stevens fixed it out of their own pocket just to get it done and just to be done with it, so it was correct. That's where it all starts. That's where it all went, and then all this stuff happens. So nothing has happened. Nothing. Well, what did you do behind closed doors to an employee that committed fraud and another employee who
Let it happen?
I'm sure, I'm just, I am thinking for myself, my boss, this boss here, probably told this guy here, who's his subordinate, hey, write a letter. Go post that road. Someone did something. But it's a secret. It's all done behind closed doors because, it's a person.
Can't hold anybody to account.
Right. So, I don't know. I would think if one of our teachers committed fraud, that they would lose their job because that's illegal. But no, didn't happen. So this is something I would have liked to have said to Mr. Minnick last night when he spoke. He came in. He was there, I think, for probably many reasons. But one of the things you want to talk about is assessments. And obviously, everyone's assessment went way up.
Way up.
Way up. The town went from like 445 million worth as a town to like 770 million as a town. So huge increase. And then they adjust the tax rate. They still get more tax money out of it. It doesn't. I'm working on something else, but
They don't get more tax money. The tax dollar amount stays the same. They get more from residents now than they did commercial property.
right. But
Right.
basically, what they say, it's a wash. So
It should be a wash. If they get one more penny, then something wasn't done properly. They didn't calculate the rate properly. But, I say 1 penny. To them, anything in the $999 and less is on a wash for the town. The town doesn't care about our tax dollars anywhere from $0 to $999. They made that point last night. So just so the town knows, the select board agree that their take is anything below $1,000 is just money that's in a wash. They're not looking that far down. They don't care to make sure that every dollar is being spent properly. That's how else can you take that statement that they made, whoever it was, because they allowed it to happen. If it wasn't one of the select board members, it was Hunter. But they said anything XXX is that's a wash for y'all, right? Didn't somebody say that?
Jeff said it.
Oh, okay.
Jeff said that 10,000 and whatever the change is, like you just said, between $1 and $199 is pocket change in our $20 million budget. So, what I would like to say,
That's an interesting comment from somebody supposed to be good stewards of our money. Like you would expect the school board to be good stewards of the money that they get.
Yeah. So,
because we've had people call us about things and they didn't realize it was grant money.
yeah, there's a lot of that.
You know what I mean? Like they see something going on, and they're like, "Why are y'all spending money on this?" Well, it's grant money. It's
yes.
It's not.
And I see
It's
it all the
meant
time.
for that.
I said that about school like 2 years ago. I'm like, why is that field getting done? Like, we don't have money for whatever, but it was grant money. It's
That applies to recreation.
yeah.
Sports,
It's
that kind of,
and oftentimes when you see things, whether it's town related or school related,
It is grant
That's what it
money.
ends up
Yeah,
being, is
like
grant
most
money.
of our money goes to
Like that real core.
salary and
Yeah.
behavioral health.
So here's the thing that I want, and this is what I want answers for this. I think I should go to the next meeting and ask for clarification from every board member individually during the meeting, is we need housing in Newport. I've heard this for 5 years as I've been on the zoning board, and I've asked, and I asked Jeff Kessler this once, probably 3 years ago. We were approving housing units and stuff like that, and I was like, and it was just a question because you're the Board of Selectmen rep, so you know the answer to this, where I do not know the answer to this. And I said, how many housing places are we going to approve? Because in my mind, if you approve too many, you flip the dynamic of the town overnight, and now you have so many kids in school that you just screwed yourself. You just destroyed your town. And so I said, well, how many of these, like, does Hunter want to just approve? And he's like, just keep proving them. Okay. And like, so I consciously asked that question, knowing, yes, as things come into Newport, it does add tax revenue, but Spring Street's been a hot topic in Newport. Okay. They're putting 42 units in there. Now, it'll probably add, these are just guesstimates, okay, like $1 million, of tax revenue into the town, budget, which obviously 2/3 of it basically goes to the school and to the towns, the other part. But you do the math, 42 units, it's 20,000 a kid right now. It doesn't take many kids to take what they're going to pay in taxes and actually be a burden to the town. So we have 42 units going there. They've started construction. We've approved several other smaller ones, okay? We approved a 92-unit senior housing by the airport. And the senior housing thing for me was, that's not tax liability, because a building will be worth a huge amount of money and a lot of tax money coming into the town of Newport. No kids, so no impact on our school. There will be an impact on our safety services. The ambulance will be going there more often. It's with elderly people tend to use, ambulance and whatever. But that was obviously considered in the decision of, if they're going to bring $1 million in tax revenue into the town or whatever a year, it offsets, right? So then there's a mill building, the old Ruger mill building, that for years they've been trying to develop. It's gone through a ton of different things, and finally looks like it's settling on. They're putting 70 units in there. So, and the only ones that can do what I'm about to say is the selectmen. So this is what I said to Mr. Menick last night. The selectmen gave that corporation, company, whatever, they're doing this job, a 3-year tax abatement. So they don't have to pay any taxes for a 3-year period. I don't know if it's 23, 4, 5. I don't know. But at some point there's 3 years, no taxes, an incentive to build there. Okay, so you just gave them almost $1 million in money that's now coming out of what would come in normally. It's not coming into here anymore. They open up a huge liability to the town, because now if they bring in 40 kids, first of all, they have 3 years that's free. That means you have to pick up the slack for the cover for the school, the cover for the town, and everything else, okay? And so you decide as a select board to give them no taxes. You just don't have to pay taxes. And they're building this place on tax money anyways. Ain't none of these guys that work their ass off for this money that are coming into this job like, hey, we're going to do this. It's all tax-based credit programs. All of it. It's not like Bill Ruger said, I've got X amount of millions of my money I'm going to put into this building right here and do this. No, these guys are just taking government money and, and so the project is very volatile, because any little thing doesn't work. It doesn't happen because they're playing with other people's money. That's all it is, right? So it's like a freaking hedge fund kind of thing where you're managing it and whatever. So my question is, and I want all 5 of them, because I believe it passed 5-0. And if I'm wrong about that, I apologize to the ones that voted against it, but I believe it passed 5-0. what mindset are you in that says, hey, we're going to give you taxes free taxes. You don't have to pay taxes on this big building that you are now going to open up to a liability to the school. But, oh, we need housing. To what point? So that if that goes in there within the next year, Spring Street's up, that's going to put you 110 plus units new to town, boom, which if you look at the amount of apartments and stuff in town, you've probably doubled the capacity of what's in town at that point. And out of the 110 units, if you have 110 kids.
Or even if you have 30 kids.
Yeah, what are you going to do? This is the decisions being made at the town level that impact every one of us in Newport, that impact the school board, that nobody's discussing. Because it makes the town look good.
You're saying that the select board didn't contact anybody at the school board or have any type of conversations about making this decision before they did it?
Nope.
But that can't be so, because last night I got a lecture, the whole town did, about being team players and being big enough to pick up a phone call and have a conversation. So whenever it's something negative, we need to pick up the phone call, but they see this as positive, so it's just like, oh, you might get a bunch of kids. And if I recall properly, that the numbers that they gave don't add up. Was it down in Manchester where they like built a bunch of the same type of things, and they were like, oh, we're going to have 7 or to 15 kids, and it ended up being like 429. I mean, it was obviously more than 90 units or whatever, but right, it was like on a bigger scale, like the percentages were way off on their impact to the school.
This is the thing I've said for a while now too.
But I really thought that would have been like one of the first things that they did after listening to last night with the teamwork that's coming out of the select board. That Mr. Kessler himself is the team player. He made it all about him last night and how he would have done things differently and scolded, even though Jenna and the superintendent were there and did a mea culpa and said, hey, you know what? We did go about it the wrong way. Let's figure this out. That's just odd to me.
Yeah. So,
wow. So honest.
Let's look forward, okay? So the town will get the benefit from added revenue on Spring Street.
Yeah.
The town will get the added revenue benefit to Sunapee Street, the mill building, after the 3 years, right? Because they don't have to pay any taxes for 3 years. But the liability all falls on the school. And then, so let's fast forward to a couple years from now, and we have all these extra kids that we can't take into school. What's going to happen? They're just going to make the school look like the bad people.
Yeah, they're going to say that, well, you get all this money.
Yeah, 2/3 of your taxes go to the school. One of the selectmen already said this before. I seen this on Facebook was, oh, well, go down and talk to school. I mean, 2/3 of your tax dollars go in there. So, and let me just tell you from working at the school and doing the budget and everything, the $20 million it's like barely pays the bills. This is the struggle in most schools in New Hampshire. And if anyone was paying attention to that would know that's the case. But when you selectively tell, information and not the whole picture of what's going on, like why do you think Kathy Hubert, John Lunn are working so hard trying to go after the state to fund education properly?
Like working hard for this town. I don't know if the town knows how hard, and
I can tell you
money and time that they're investing out of their own pockets.
And I can tell you right now, my political beliefs and John Lunn's political beliefs are a long ways apart. But I appreciate everything he's doing because he's doing it for what's best for Newport and what's best for the kids in Newport and the state overall, right?
Right.
Because that's how decisions should be made, not based on, oh, well, I believe in this political party, that political party, so this is what I'm going to do. No. These people are stepping up saying someone's got to do something because we're at a tipping point. Dr. Scott said it. Bert said it. We've got about 5 years before there's no more money you're going to get out of anything, and it's just going to completely crumble down to gone, right? It's just not going to work. We're already at the point where light bills, everything is so high that it's hard to pay your bills.
Yeah.
And then the school every year has to come after looking for more money. And like this year, our budget, $1.85. Default is 87 cents. Next Tuesday, please go vote and support the budget. There's key things in this increase that are vital to make our school better. para contracts. That was a big part of it. 2 teaching positions that we had cut at one point to save money, which is the stupidest thing I ever heard. Is like, let's cut teachers. Like, the only thing you freaking do is teach. Let's cut teachers. We got too many. No, we don't. This is like bare bones. We went through the budget. No, there's no like pork here. Like, we're getting a rec center. That's pork. That's federal pork.
That's federal pork. They're all proud of it too. That they are now in the omnibus. It's not even like a grant.
$34 trillion in debt. But
they're all happy
we're
about
getting
our
almost,
$4 million.
$4
and I supported the rec center.
And I still do. But the point is, like,
now you're on the government teat.
Yeah. And like I said, all right, if we don't take the money, it's going to go somewhere else, and someone else is going to get something. So,
but see, that to me though, all of America should be like, enough of this.
There should be no.
It shouldn't be
pork.
any. Like,
how about you pay the deficit down then?
Like, I agree with you. Somebody's going to get it, but the right thing to do is for everybody to say, stop spending so much money. Just like if they want to work together, then how about we look at why does it cost so much to run the school, right? Because I'll tell you, we talked about it on the show. The roads around here are piss poor for the most part.
They're horrible.
They're horrible.
My road is so bad. So freaking bad.
It's like it's like one of those, it's like the Oregon Trail, how they allegedly have, like, the spires and stuck in
still in it. Yeah.
That's how your road is. Like, you got to drive and get into the tracks or balance in between other tracks. And this is 2023. There are still roads that Rome built that are still around, but yet we can't figure out how to pave, a mile for inexpensively.
Yep, it's crazy. It's just so like I said, like, kind of try to sum up everything. I want to know why the decision was made to give a company. It's not even a Newport. It's not like a Newport person, Newport construction company is going to. No, this is going to be all out-of-state workers. They're all going to come in. It's a low bid, whatever. Not going to bring jobs to Newport or anything. Why are we giving them it's tax easement for 3 years? After we just got wailed on by taxes.
Well, see, that's the thing last night, that, like, when Mr. Minich brought that up. So, from my perspective, like, no one on that board agreed in the sense of, like, well, no, because there was one of them said, well, it might have been Mr. Kessler said we could spend a couple $100,000 to relook at, because, and then Hunter cut him off because he doesn't want to spend that money on that again. But here's the thing. The select board needs to be cognizant of the fact that you're going to hurt the town. So we had an 80% increase. None of us are going to be able to sell our houses if next year, like, my house is, $100,000 less, but I'm not going to be able to sell it if somebody's going to have to pay $100,000 more on it in taxes. Like, why would they buy it and say, I'm not going to pay $500,000 for your home?
Right.
Like, it's worth $400,000, but you're paying taxes on a $500,000 home. So then I'm stuck in my house.
Yeah, I feel
like not that I look at it being stuck there, but what if there's a job opportunity or life happens and I need to move, right? Like, people need to move, and if they want to sell their property, it's their. But you know what I mean. So there wasn't much of a. Like, it was like, well, it is what it is, and you got 5 years, and I agree with what Mr. Minich was saying. What he was saying is, who amongst y'all or even in our House of Representatives are watching this, because it affects us. It's not a simple.
Nobody, because it's tax money.
Yeah, because they don't care.
Exactly.
Like, it was pretty evident that they didn't care. Now, I'll give Mr. Kessler credit. I think it was him that said, well, we might be able to invest $200,000 to get it reassessed. Because you can ask for a reassessment. Like, you don't have to wait 5 years. Like, that, whatever. Because they talked about that before when it first came up. Because remember, you were at that meeting, and that's when they first said my house was worth like $784,000. And I'm like, bull larky. Like, no one's going to buy this house for that much money. And then I'm not going to be able to afford my taxes. So now you're going to repossess my home? Yeah. But obviously they got their money's worth. They saved money, and so they, had a $150,000 hot tub on my property?
Yeah.
And other properties, allegedly, is what they told me, Nikki, because I wasn't here, so Nikki had to do the thing. But I was kind of disappointed that there wasn't any, like, it was pretty much like, stop your complaining, this is how it is for 5 years. No. This is our town. He is a taxpayer, a citizen. He's asking you something.
You answer to him.
You answer to him. You don't just tell him, oh, in 5 years. He was saying, well, who's watching it? Who's going to say, hey, look, we've been watching it. Like, he was asking for like a report out of some kind to say, are y'all doing this? Do y'all do anything outside of meet on Mondays twice a week or twice a month? Do y'all keep an eye on this? Are y'all working for us? That was his main point, which is, it doesn't appear that they are. It appears that you got to wait 5 years is what they're, well, until, I think it was Mr. Kessler that said it, but then Hunter cut him off and basically was like, no. They watch it. The government's not going to reinitiate a reeval if all of a sudden our houses all start selling for 40% less than what they have them evaluated at, because that's going to cost them money.
Exactly.
They have to do it when we tell them to do it. And so he was asking a question, and they were just trying to push him out of there instead of, my personal opinion, they didn't take him seriously enough. Once Hunter cut it off and was like, yeah, they're not going to reinitiate it. They're going to do it in 5 years unless we go as a town. And now I agree, it might be kind of early, right, because it just kind of hit. And so now might be too early. So if I were on the board and I got that question posed to me, I would say I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
that we need to relook at it. Yeah. But right now I don't think is the right time, because we need to. We need some properties to sell.
Yeah. Fast forward a year from now, you're going to bitch about the same thing, because the same thing's going to happen. Where if you waited 2 years from now, it probably.
So like we may have to suck it up. But I'm with you, and I'm going to watch it. And the second that I think that it's going to flip flop and benefit the town,
right.
But the other problem is it goes back to, it's more multifaceted than that, because we're not getting funded properly for education.
Right.
So our taxes are always going to be high.
Right.
And going back to what you said, thankfully, Ms. Huber and John Lund are.
Right. I mean, half the things that happen in Newport, like a lot of these big things that have happened and whatever, like, to Hunter's credit, Hunter goes out and gets grants like
no, I'll say it all the time. He's a bureaucrat's bureaucrat. Like, that's
so.
There's no. I'm not doubting his ability to get grants and find money and,
the overall
and save
issue
the town
is
money.
That's the state's not doing their constitutional right, which is to fund education. That's the biggest issue here. Because if they funded education, all our towns would be so much better, because your taxes would be far less, and you'd have so much more.
You'd have more money to invest.
Yeah, then Hunter could say, hey, we're going to pave every road this year
Right.
because this is ridiculous and they're junk. Like our CTE. It's been 30 years since that's the cycle, 30-year cycle. It's nonsense, but this is how they do it, right? But if they were to actually fund education the right way, this wouldn't be an issue for all of us. But what gets me is, you can tell just from, and not necessarily from all of them, but just certain key points I pick up and see and little things. It's like, oh, it's, go talk to the school. The school's taking 2/3 of your money anyways. Well, half the stuff the school has to do is because of federal and state mandates they're forced to do.
So really what we should do is not talk to the school. We should go talk to our representatives and say, what's up with DOE mandating and making us have behavioral counselors and everything else? Why aren't we just kicking kids out and letting the parents deal with them? Right. Why is it now the town's problem and my kid's problem to put up with, a behavior issue?
Right. So that's my question, and that's the answer I want.
It's deeper than just us versus them. It should be all of us going and saying, back off, government. Let us figure it out locally. Let us figure out if we need how many of this, that, or the other that we need. You know what I mean? Because a lot of stuff is mandated to us.
A lot is mandated, and then basically...
or you get required to do it if you accept grants, right? There's always a couple of...
I mean, there's less education going on than there is other BS that we've been told we have to do.
Right, but I think that, and that's, one of the good things I think about Interim Superintendent Magoon is she seems to understand that.
Right.
That what's important is the education, and making sure that our kids are able to go out into the workforce and be successful
Right.
when they're 16 to 18 years old. You know, 'cause some of them have like start working when they're younger. But
Right.
I fully believe that she's on board with that.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Definitely.
And so hopefully we'll see some changes that we can do. But it also is going to take a town and a state effort to back off all the departments of education that get involved.
Yeah, because we're getting at a breaking point where.
Yeah,
She's
like
not-
you said, 5 years is roughly the amount of time. After that, there's no more tax rate increases that the town could support and survive.
Right. You can't. I mean, you're pushing as it is.
And if we have 3 years, well, you know, I understand like giving some people some incentives, right? But again, to your point, where was the coordination with the school board in the sense of, hey, we're looking at doing this. How's this going to impact y'all? What, you know, these are the stats that they're telling us is about how many kids they think are going to come in with 90 units. Does that seem right to you from a school perspective, right? Like, and so then you go and then you get the experts.
I'm telling you, man, watch the freaking zoning board meetings because, and this is what gets me, and I keep saying it, so I freaking say it all the time. Someone comes in, okay? And it's always these corporates, these bigger companies. It's not like Steve wants to put a fence up and whatever, because those are so freaking easy. Because I'm like, okay,
It's your property.
it's your property. Do it the freaking, like, you know what I'm saying? That's my mindset on so much of it. But these are always, excuse me, big companies or companies coming in and, well, these stats are from the New Hampshire Housing Authority. Yeah, and how'd they get the stats and where'd they come from? But there's nothing. It's not like court where you're like, oh, the prosecution defense puts their cases forward and then we judge them. It's just, here's the facts, and then I'm supposed to make decisions based on their facts. I'm like, you could take stats from anywhere and manipulate it however you want to make it look good, but I need to take your word for it, and then you get offended because I'm like, I'm not sure about this. Well, those aren't my facts. Those are the housing authority facts. Yeah, and if you didn't like the housing authority facts to this, you would have found some other place that worked for you and brought that with you. So, like, we need to be looking into this stuff because once you approve this stuff, it's there. It's not going away. You can't say, well, we made a mistake. We don't actually think this should be here. It's you approved it. End of story. It's happening. You can't stop it.
Yeah, it's tough. Like the 3 years is a long time, especially with underfunded education and
roads in town that are crap. There's $900,000 you could have put into roads.
Yeah.
But we're going to get more houses, and so that's going to benefit us. Like, I understand that there's a housing shortage, but I don't see, if Spring Street wasn't happening or something. Like, I could see.
So there's a housing shortage, but where are these people going to work?
I know, they're not working now.
Yeah, there's people that live here that allegedly don't work.
I don't know.
So we have a housing shortage for non-working class?
And I can tell you right now, it's all federal money. Workforce housing, federal money. So someone said on Facebook the other day, "Oh, are you going to fill it with illegals?"
That was my
like, "No,
first
that
guess.
can't happen."
That's what I would have guessed.
Someone's like, "No, that can't happen." I'm like, "Yeah."
Okay. Drive right up and drop the bus off right there.
It's all federal money, all of it.
Yeah. And once the federal money gets involved, then they can do pretty much whatever they want, kind of like with the airport. You gave them an entrance into our airport. Way to go.
Yeah. So, yeah.
There used to be a time, Tim, where our country was founded on small government.
Yeah.
Like it was all about small government. Like go out and live your life.
It'll work correctly and in the way it should work.
Like go live your life, and you shouldn't even know that government even exists.
Not anymore. And I will say, just so, to be fair, not that I have to be because it's our show. We can do whatever the hell we want. But any selectman or anyone that wants to come on the show and sit here and tell me I'm wrong about something, okay, I'm open to it anytime. Anytime.
Yeah, it's not personal.
Yeah. I don't know. I've talked about the bus barn. Like I said,
I mean, that's
to me,
done. That's over with. Like,
I want the answers to the whole tax break, and I want answers that I know
I want answers to the bridge being shut for a year, and then wasn't there something else where bids are accepted after closing time allegedly?
Yeah, the bid was accepted after the bid had closed.
4.5 hours later, right? Something
yeah.
like that. I don't know. From somebody's best friend too, or whatever, maybe allegedly.
And they said the person that did the bidding thing, whatever, just he didn't know. Well, negligence of the law is.
Let me tell you something.
It doesn't work that way.
When I was in the military, I had a contract that I was responsible for, and they scoured my bank accounts, my wife's bank accounts. I had to give them my parents' dates of birth. I don't know if they looked at their bank accounts or whatever, because it was worth a lot. These contracts aren't necessarily worth that much money, right. But it's with any contract, because it all has to be above board. And if somebody turned it in at 12:01, it doesn't matter. It's that doesn't get accepted. It's just there's no. Now, if no one turned one in and I got them
right.
all between, or 12:05 because my email was down or something, then I would have to go and file a report and say, I had a technical glitch or whatever else. Can I accept these, or do I have to reopen the bidding process?
Right.
And then they're going to ask me questions like, well, have you seen what the bids are? Do you kind of know what they are? Because if you do, that's not really fair, because, we got to pull you off of this now.
It's all about transparency.
It's all about transparency.
And the buddy system.
And fairness.
Right.
It's about fairness.
Right.
And when you do things like that, you take away fairness. And when you do that, that to me is not good governance. That's not like that. I wasn't allowed to do that in the military. I would have gotten fired. I probably would have went to jail if I did stuff like that. Here, I guess it's no big deal.
Apparently not.
Even if it's for a $500 contract, that is illegal.
Right.
It is unethical.
That's a crime. So crimes are happening in our town
with and at our expense. Who represents us to nip this in the bud? Because I thought that well, never mind. I'm not going to say it, but people ran acting like they were going to stop this kind of thing from happening.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
See, I guess.
I guess you say anything to get elected.
Right. So the vote next Tuesday for the school's budget. Please, come out, vote. Please support the budget. If it doesn't pass, I don't even know, because we can't. We've got so many opens in pairs because no one's going to work at a pair of the crappy pay that we're paying them now. So this is
and they're critical in the way that our classrooms are set up, because we don't have.
And if you want to see it for yourself, go down and ask for a little tour. Look at what we're talking about. It's a dire need.
Yeah, I'm sure that they might.
And you have 32 high school students that have full schedules, or rest don't, which means they have free period / study labs, and that's all because you don't have enough teachers to offer the classes to fill them. 32 out of 300. That's
we're failing as a town.
Yeah, it's a failure.
That's one of the reasons why I ran, because Zeta had so much. I'm like, you need to be. I was in class my senior year. She wasn't on a work. I mean, she ended up getting a job, right? Because she had so much free time. But up until then, it was like, why are you home at 10:30 in the morning?
Yeah.
Go get a job.
So there's a school board meeting on Thursday. Anyone's welcome to come out, ask questions, whatever. I'm an open book. I say it all the time. I represent the people. And just like when I sit on the zoning board, and I said this last meeting, and I don't think the contractor was very happy, but I was like, I represent the people of Newport. I don't represent you. So I'm here to make the decision what's best for Newport and based on our rules and everything. And if something is unjust or unfair, but you can't create your own hardship, which is what you're doing. I represent the people of Newport. That is my only job. And there's a point if I get where I don't represent them anymore, I shouldn't be there anymore.
Yeah.
It's time to move on. So, and everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah.
Clearly.
All of us do.
But there's a lot of stuff happening here that it's not a mistake. It's just things aren't being done about certain things, and we're picking and choosing what we want to do. So maybe on the bus barn, the mistake was should have went right to the source, right the freaking first meeting, whatever, in November, and said everything we had to say. Maybe that was a mistake. Maybe we should have done differently. Okay, I'll move on. Whatever. But I have a serious thing when someone sends a fraudulent letter to the state of New Hampshire lying about something to influence a bid on a job and nothing's done. I have a serious issue when representatives of our town are posting roads to interfere with a business that was complete fraud, that never happened. The bridge was never inspected and failed. Basically, they made it seem like the bridge was going to fall into the river, yet that bridge has the highest rating you can get for a used bridge.
I remember because that unfolded over a couple of meetings.
Many meetings.
Because I remember the first meeting, we're like, oh, it's falling apart.
I don't want to hear the excuse that, oh, the person that did the bids hasn't done them before, so they didn't realize you couldn't take a bid, several hours.
Well, that's your fault.
after.
You failed to train them, so where's your punishment?
Doesn't matter. It's a crime.
Exactly.
It's illegal. They have a bid process for a reason. All these things happen for a reason. They have an RSA where only the selectmen can post a road and nobody else can for a reason.
Right.
Follow the law. Maybe this is why we have so many freaking lawyer fees that the town is paying out. Fighting battles we shouldn't be fighting because we're in the wrong, but someone's ego is so big that, like the Opera House doesn't use the elevator anymore because, come find out, the county actually owned an elevator. That's all a conversation that we don't have time to get into today, and I don't even know a quarter of information about it, but yeah.
It's crazy.
So if you live in this town, you really need to pay attention, and you need to start showing up in meetings and asking questions.
Yeah, there's a law that's up that you can come and ask us questions, and we got to give you the legal answer, right? Like,
Yeah,
I don't know if it's going to pass or whatever, but like it's set up to encourage our citizens to participate and keep us from making mistakes.
They should do that for towns too, not just school boards. But the difference is the school boards, the state's more like, yeah, all right, because they don't give a shit about education in New Hampshire. Because look at our
No,
ratings
because
and
you
else.
only got to be 58% proficient,
Yes.
and then the state's happy.
Now the town, it's different because it's more
Or 62%.
sane.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Not even passing. When I was in school, 70% was passing.
It's bad, man. Which, that's what we're here to try to fix, right? As far as the school goes. All right, this Friday, March 10th at 6 o'clock. If you are playing or hanging out, please arrive by 6. So maybe it starts at 6:30. I don't know. I would be there at 6. It's faculty basketball game versus students versus faculty. It's $2 to get in for an adult, $1 for a student. There's concessions. There's a halftime show featuring Newport High School student Aiden Cowett, which I know he sings, so maybe he's going to do like something then. And then also there's a school resource officer, Detective Bodette, which maybe he's going to sing too. I don't know. They're going to do 50-50, and it just seems like it's going to be a really fun thing. And those things are always a ton of fun.
This Friday night?
This Friday night. It's completely, everyone's welcome. It's open to the public. You don't have to have kids in school, nothing.
Just say who it benefits, what they're going to do with them.
I think
Probably for the senior class or something.
I believe this was part of Life of a Tiger.
Oh, okay. Like student council.
Or, yeah, well, because it says if you are in Life of a Tiger, please be there early. So I think they're putting it on.
Okay.
So, and then obviously if you're
Awesome.
a player or whatever, you have to wear, you can't have your outside shoes. You need to change shoes. You don't want to mess up the court. So I saw that. I said, that's cool. We need to talk about that on the show. And as long as nothing's going on, I definitely want to check it out because those things are so much fun. Like that, dodgeball. It's good fun. It's a great way for the students and the staff to like get to know each other better and like make a better connection. It's not just your teacher. It's
Yeah.
oh,
The
it's
field's
good.
a friendly
It's
strife, man. I'm all
Yeah.
about competition and teamwork.
Yeah, man, it's good. So I guess now, just getting a couple quick things. But so I had said this to you yesterday. I thought it was funny. So Jimmy Kimmel calls Aaron Rodgers a tinfoil hatter for talking about the Epstein list, not being released. And so I see this meme on Facebook. How do you tell someone you're on the list without actually saying you're on the list? Maybe this right here. Which, if you believe that list thing that came out a long time ago, he's on the list.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. I don't know how accurate or real that list is, but there are some people that got some explaining to do, and they keep dangling all these other things nationally to keep people, distracted from it. But really, we all should be saying, who did these two people traffic children to, and why aren't they all in jail? And if they are in jail, why don't we know about it?
Well, you know about John McAfee? The
McAfee?
Yeah. What do you know about him?
He's pretty much a red pillar, right? So, like, he... Basically, I've read some stuff. I mean, he claimed that he put on his software, just like the government does, that he had just as much information on them. My rib. Oh.
That's what he's been doing for, 2 weeks now?
Broke my rib coughing the other day.
So, I was just curious, like, because I watched a documentary thing that Netflix did last night. And, some of what I got out of him is...
I haven't watched that.
He's
in truth.
It was okay.
He's a weird guy, because that guy that was killed in Belize or whatever.
He totally killed that dude.
Did he?
And then, you could tell he totally killed his dad, which sounded like that was, just cause. His dad was a piece of shit, beat his mom and stuff. But and then the cam work and stuff is horrendous by these experts that have been doing it forever. But at one point, the camera guy left whatever island they're on, grabbed his stuff, and went to the airport. 'Cause he's like, this dude's been on so many bath salts and shit that he was shooting his gun in the boat one day, nuts. But he had stupid money, huge. I know it said that he doesn't own obviously that company anymore, but it was worth $14 billion today, and I think he sold out for close to $1 billion or something. He was worth huge money. But it's tough too, because it almost discredits him in a lot of ways, because he's nuts. He already thinks someone's after him, which at times I think maybe someone was, but he kept talking about I've got stuff on Belize, and then he had something on the cartel, the El Chapo on the Sinaloa cartel and stuff, and that's the last.
They're in the news for
Arizona. So he had all this stuff, but I'm like, dude, you say you have this stuff, but you haven't released any of it.
Yeah.
So if you had it, then why didn't you release it?
See, that's what bothers me about all the conspiracies, right?
Right.
If all of this stuff is true, how come not one person's been arrested? Is it so corrupt that you got all these judges and prosecutors in the bag, or?
But if you had that information, your life's at risk.
Right. Put it out there.
Your life's at risk whether you have it now or you release it.
Well, there was a countdown timer on one of his accounts after he died, but then nothing ever really got released from it. So I think that was
the
all
government took it over. I don't know. But anyways, he's found dead in the prison in Spain, and they basically said that it's not Epstein, he wasn't suicidal or whatever. Which that dude had too big of an ego to be suicidal. He faked a heart attack to get out of Guatemala to get back to the United States, and then he started his whole thing over again. And I think he had too much of an ego to kill himself. I don't know, but I thought it was interesting. I kind of bored. I was trying to find something to watch. I think I'll watch this. If it was put together better, it would have been easier to watch. But it did kind of show he's definitely nuts. There's no question about it. The dude was nuts.
Yeah, all you got to do is watch him talk for 5 minutes.
Yeah. But he's also a super smart man. You can't. But if you had all this stuff, man, then why didn't you just release it?
I don't know. That's always the question, is if all this stuff is...
Right. But it's funny because he feared the cartel more than the government, which I would too. I would never come on the show and just, I said about the Hobbs and all that connection, because I ain't got no information that's going to do anyone any good. But if someone comes to me hey, this is about the cartel, no one knows it, I want you to break the story. Yeah, I don't think so.
You're I've watched enough TV shows to realize how this ends.
Yeah, because they have balls and they will do what they're going to do, because it's about survival. The federal government, a little different. You don't mess with cartels. You just don't. So, no, it was interesting. unfortunate too. Like, dude, if you had the freaking stuff, then release it. But you know, when he went to Belize, it's like, yeah, you have money down here. They don't care about anything. And then that happened. Then he escaped there, goes to Guatemala, like barely got in there. Still kind of not illegal, but his girlfriend, whatever at the time, his uncle was high up or some crap. But then he still got arrested there, fakes a heart attack. Then I don't know, at that point, they're probably just like, oh, we're sick with this dude, and send him back to the United States. And then he started on his little trip again, got arrested in the Dominican Republic because he had like 17 guns more than he should have, or someone boarded his boat at one point, seized all his guns except for 3. He was only allowed 3 guns and 250 rounds. And then when he went to the Dominican Republic is when he got arrested again because he comes out with his sidearm on, and these guys are like troops. They don't mess around with, especially the Dominican Republic. And he gets arrested there. They finally release him because they probably like, this isn't even worth it. But he flies from there, then he goes to Spain, and then whatever happens. But, I mean, it certainly did a good job painting him as a wackadoo, which does discredit him.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a Netflix documentary, so.
But it's funny because one of the guys, actually, who's from Maine, is a ghostwriter, and he was writing a story about him, and he had said, like, in the thing, I just want to say, like, I have nothing on the Clintons or the cartel, because those are 2 things that he said he had all this stuff, and he's like, I got none of that. I was just, he said, because he was obviously like, don't kill me, man, like, crazy.
Don't put me on a plane with turbulence.
Yeah, what the fuck? I saw that.
Crazy.
I saw that, and then you told me, you realize that was a ex-Clinton Obama person that died on a plane with turbulence. I don't know if anyone's ever died on a plane because of extreme turbulence.
Yeah, I think there's been a couple.
I mean, was the turbulence?
I mean, if it hits you out of nowhere and you're walking, or you don't have your seatbelt on and you hit your neck, you can probably break your neck pretty easily.
I mean, let's face it. Could have happened, yes. But you mentioned Clintons and someone dying at a young age.
Or I would consider that a weird circumstance.
Yeah. Or like you tied yourself to a tree, shot yourself twice, and the gun was 30 feet away or something like that.
Hey, don't believe your lying eyes, Tim.
No, don't. Did you see old John Fetterman's making some news again?
I saw they posted it was supposed to be a proof of life, but I didn't see a newspaper.
So
I didn't see a newspaper or a timestamp.
Apparently in a psych ward or some stuff. And questions have mounted how Fetterman has allegedly been able to pen a letter with fellow Democrats while under supervision for depression in the hospital. And then there was actually a letter, I believe someone out of Pennsylvania wrote demanding like proof of life, and then he can do his job. If not, then the legislature needs to vacate his position and then have a special election. Everything around him was flaky to start with, like from the whole thing.
Yeah, him versus Dr. Oz, who didn't seem like a Republican. I mean, he's best friends with Oprah for a while there anyway. Like,
I know, that's definitely a case of the better. Out of these 2 horrible candidates, who's better? But yeah, you still choose the dude that just had a stroke, can't freaking put something like.
That's why I mean it's so hard for me to believe anymore that people vote the way that they do. But who knows? Maybe they do. I don't know, because that one's like hard to even question because, like you said, both of them are kind of like.
Yeah.
If I lived there, I don't even know that I would. I'd probably do a write-in.
Oh, yeah, or just not vote. Like I could totally see the low vote count on that because they're like, these guys both suck. I don't even want them.
Yeah, I'd probably do a write-in.
Yeah.
Out of those 2 candidates.
Scary. All right, I have a meme of the day before I forget. And then we told them gas stoves are harmful, but a toxic cloud of vinyl chloride is totally safe.
I love the lizard memes.
Yeah.
I saw about 4 of them last night scrolling through.
You see another one of those fucking trains crashed in Ohio?
Hey, all I'm telling you is if I were to launch an attack, if I were a general of some kind, I would get rid of the means of not even production in this case. I would get rid of their supply chain.
Let's think about it. They went through
Our supply chain's been allegedly under attack since COVID. You got to say it sarcastically like that. COVID.
I think about you. You just went through a potential strike. None of the employees are happy. They don't have, I believe, enough employees to do the job to start with. I think about if this was planes.
And now the employees can't say anything or they can commit a crime, right? They can't even.
They can't strike.
They can't strike.
Yes, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, if this was airplanes, you would ground. If this was like United Airlines having, like, you would ground every flight, and then force a federal inspection of everything before you. It's the same thing. That company should be like, you're done. You're not gonna go on another track until everything you own has been inspected.
Yeah, because is it the rail cars or is it the track? When's the last time those tracks have been improved?
And the federal government's going to blame it on the rail company because that's just a scapegoat. But the federal government's responsible for the transportation stuff here
Between states, yeah.
Yeah. So
The rail lines, yeah. They regulate it.
I'm just glad we have Pete Buttigieg in there. Because, man, he is so qualified for that position.
He's under investigation for all of his private jet trips.
Really?
Well, by the IG. I'm sure he won't get punished. Nobody is ever held to account. They'll probably be like, don't do it again.
What about his best friend that just got arrested for 56 cases of child porn?
Oh, that other
mentor guy, whatever. Yeah.
He was the mentor. Buttigieg was the mentor of that guy.
Yeah.
He was a mayor of some city.
He apparently didn't mentor him how to not get caught.
Or, yeah. I mean, that's to me, it's hard to judge because you might not know somebody's deepest dark. You know what I'm saying?
It's true.
No. But I'm saying I don't know that. You can't say that.
No.
Buttigieg should.
I get what you're saying. No, I get what you're saying. I don't want to accept it because just the circumstances. But you're right. That dude could have just been really good at hiding things and could have nothing to do with it.
We used to get a thing about there's three versions of Tim. There's the public-facing version. There's what your family and closest friends know, and then there's the true Tim that people may not know.
Right.
You mask it.
Right.
So you wear a mask because all of us probably think or say things that if we were to say it out loud, we'd be like, "Am I crazy?" You know what I mean? So that was the one thing. Because we had to go through all the non-military training, right? So this is part of my non-military training that took up the majority of the time in the military, and so because you never know, if you're going to get for sexual harassment, right? There's no way to just walk up and be able to say, "Oh, this guy or gal is a sexual assaulter, harasser," because if they're really good at it, they have that. You'll never see it, right? They hide themselves behind that cloak,
right?
And you might see the other two, but that third, right? I don't know. There was an analogy the guy used, but it's that I kept with me because number one, I got that training for 10 to 12 years, at least once or twice a year, right. So,
but now a couple more
because you can't blame yourself, right? What if, God forbid somebody and you're like, what the hell? I never, somebody commits suicide, and a lot of people are always like, I had no idea. He was so happy, right, because they're wearing that.
Right, exactly. So now if he gets, another friend of his or something gets arrested for the same thing, now you start to put things together and wait a minute.
Right, yeah. Now, if he's got a circle.
Right, if you have a circle of friends that mysteriously die, 60 plus of them.
Some odd of them of suicide or mysterious.
Then probably a good chance there's something not right there.
Dude, there was a list that was sitting around in the 90s about that family.
So corrupt. So do you want to talk about Biden?
Of a suicide list. So those 60 some odd people, that's been going on for 30 some odd years. So
you really want to think about government corruption. Biden,
1 or 2 a year.
Biden is corrupt as can be, but I don't know anyone ever that's ever come to mind that is as corrupt as the Clintons, and ties so deep.
Well, all you gotta do is follow the money.
Right.
Look at the Clinton Foundation, and then once she lost the election, where'd all the money go? It moved over to the McCain Foundation.
Right.
They all have foundations.
Yeah. I mean, they're all crooked.
Because, I mean, look at it. AOC's worth millions now. So where did she get those millions?
But to be so embedded in Washington, I mean, yeah, your husband was the president in the 90s, but still, like, even if you look at every two-term president, none of them are as embedded like that family.
Yeah, well, she was, Secretary of State.
She's done everything.
She was a senator.
Yeah, she won New York, ran to be senator for a few years. She left 4 people to die in Benghazi. Yeah, I don't know.
Why are you bringing that up? What was her famous line? That's in the past or something. Do you remember that? Like, she was so indignant when they tried to ask her about it. Like,
it's in the past. You shouldn't bring this up. Nuts. All right.
Sorry.
That's all good. I know. I had a hard time leaving Dartmouth's parking lot because I kept coughing and opened my door to spit this nasty stuff out. And I finally, calmed down enough, all right, I think I can start driving to Steve's house now. Jeez. All right, guys. So anyways, today's show, if you want to, look into anything we said, NCTV has all these meetings up online. The meeting that...
Yeah, that's my own personal take. I might have misunderstood.
Yeah.
The volume when you watch it, something for me, it goes up and down. I don't know what it is, my internet connection. But so if I got something wrong, I'll retract it and make it right. So, but I don't think I did. But if I did.
No, you get the gist of what's happened. I mean, you can't... They voted. They gave this company 3 years, no taxes. You can't spin it. You did it. Why'd you do it? I'd like to know why you did it. Maybe you give me some answer that makes me feel all right.
Well, I would hope that they have the economic projection of what bringing those 90 units will do long term, right? So, for 3 years, which again goes back to, hey, school district, you might have to suffer for 3 years, and hey, town, we're going to take a hit because the school can't afford to hire 4 more teachers. Right?
No, it's just more information that was provided to us by the company. Because there's Bert knows more about this because he goes to every meeting. But there's more that.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily against tax breaks, right? Because I am not a fan of taxes in general. But at the same time, if this is the system that we have, and we're going to be bringing in 20, 30 kids to the school district in a relatively short time with no tax money to coincide with it, we're going to hurt. And so the town needs to understand that we're going to hurt for 3 or 4 years because we're not going to get any taxes.
And you can clearly see, though, that if that is the case, the town's not going to hurt. The school is. And it's basically going to be our problem. It's basically what's going to be the gist of it. So that's my issue. Like I said, when you sit there and make decisions as a taxpayer resident of the town, what's best for, we're always making a decision what's best for the school, what's best for the kids, but if something's going to impact my town drastically, it's this is going to look good for the school, look good for me, it's like feather in my cap, but it's going to do damage to the town. Then no, I'm not going to do it because I'm supposed to speak for all these people. Not just myself and what I think, or, you know what I'm saying? We make judgments and stuff. It's not easy at all. So anyone that thinks it is, sign up. You can still sign up to be for selectmen. The school part's over as far as that goes, but...
there's still a vacancy.
There's still a vacancy that you can fill out. Actually, yeah, there's a vacancy you can fill out form at the SAU to get on the school board. Because it's not nearly as easy as it sounds. It's not. I'll tell you that right now. It's only been 6 months, and it's not easy. There's a lot of things that you're like, what the hell? Or things you find out behind closed doors, and you're like, and you can't say nothing about it because of whatever, but it's not easy. But I still sit there and make the decisions based off of what's best for my community, what's best for my town. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. Because I live here, and I grew up here, and I want what's best for my town, for my kids, the whole thing. That's how everybody should be making their decisions. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents on it. Like I said, I don't want to get it's done, whatever. We're going to go on like everything else, but I just feel like those decisions should be made looking at it from that aspect. So, cool. All right. Well, what are you doing tomorrow? We do a show tomorrow? Should be good. And Thursday, school board at 5 o'clock, Lou Thompson room. And then voting next Tuesday, the 14th, from 8 to 7 at the middle school gym.
3 out of the 4 of us have to be there all day.
Ah, cool. Good times. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And, yeah, we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Artlist.io